Wasn't even planning on filming at all this morning. This is super off the cuff, but I had a little bit of extra time and I was like, what better video to sit down and just kind of go for it than a Q&A, which is a little bit more informal anyway, just to begin with. Just a chance for us to hang out and for me to answer your questions that you've left on several of my recent videos. I've really been looking forward to doing this. Before I get into answering some of the questions though, I was checking my phone in bed this morning because yes, I have that very bad habit. I saw an email come through from Marina at Mahalo. When Marina emails me with something, I'm like, drop everything, I need to attend to this because I love their products so much and I talk about them all the time, that I want to alert you to a promotion that's going to be going on from July 1st through July 15th. So I wanted to just mention it in video quickly, and I'll probably also post more at length about it on Instagram and probably on my blog as well. So if you spend $185 on Mahalo's website, you can get to $185 pretty quickly. It would just be any 2 products excluding the lip tint. So my recommendations would be the Petal Mask and the Vitality Elixir. Those are my top 2 products. You receive a free Pele mask, which is valued at $60. I think this is great if you're a fan of the Pele or you generally do well with sorts of detoxy charcoal masks. I hadn't had a lot of success with that mask in particular, but I know a lot of people do. You also have the option to order just a refill of the Pele masks, but that's with a $20 discount. And then I thought this was cool. She said, most of the botanicals used in the latest batches of the Pele are from this year's Hawaiian summer harvest, which we dry and process in the studio for maximum efficacy. So, if you would like to take advantage of this offer until July 15th, you can use the code L'Amour et la Musique. I do get a small commission if you decide to use my code. I feel like everybody probably knows that about these codes that bloggers and YouTubers use, but if you choose to use the code, that's awesome. If you don't, I'm not offended at all. And I just wanted to let you guys know about that because I will promote Mahalo until the end of days because I absolutely love their products. Okay, so let's get into some questions. I'm gonna get through as many as I can. I am filming this before work, so at some point I'm gonna have to just pull the plug and go. So this is in no particular order. I'm just gonna sort of read them as I come across them. From Dana Logan, how do we balance our critique of senseless accumulation with our desire for new and beautiful things? The most succinct way I can answer this is that it's a very personal practice. And I talked about this most extensively in a video I did last year, detailing kind of exactly this, sort of how I balance my sociological social science critique of capitalism and consumption with this impulse I have towards having beautiful things in my life that make me happy. I am sort of an aspiring minimalist, so I'm like the opposite of a hoarder, and I like to really get a lot of use out of the things that I invest in. So in some ways for me it's sort of like an economics argument, although sociologists and economists pretty much disagree on everything across the board, but in economics, or sort of human economics, the economics of human behavior, they have this concept of utility. So, and utility differs from person to person based on sociocultural factors, which is what I think economists miss out on. But so, for example, the same thing will have different utility to different people based on their context, and therefore have differing value, I guess, if that makes sense. So I totally recognize that as a Westerner in a pretty privileged position that I have an opportunity of choice to even practice these personal politics. I'm very cognizant of that. But yeah, I mean, there's no answer to this question. It's just a personal practice, and I think the best we can do is be really reflective and critical of the process, but also not feel guilt when you do buy a $30 lipstick. Just, I don't know, for me it's like, have a select number of $30 lipsticks that I love and use and make me extremely happy versus having like a whole drawer full of them that, I don't know, people derive, like I'm saying, people derive utility from different things. Maybe some people really enjoy amassing a large quantity and having a collection. I think it's just really personal, I guess. Okay, the next question. So Eva asked, I'd love to know your thoughts on living libations. So sometimes in videos I will throw out kind of disparaging remarks about a whole brand. 100% Pure is one of them. Living libations is another one. I'll answer both of those now. Living libations, I've always kind of had a weird, you're gonna think I sound like kind of strange, but it's more just sort of a feel or a vibe or like an energetic reaction to the brand. At first I thought Living Libations was kind of cool, and I tried their products probably 4 or 5 years ago. I tried the best skin ever. I tried some of their raw cacao. I tried their healthy gumdrops. Okay, A, I think their stuff is expensive for Americans because they are a Canadian company for what it is. B, I happened to stumble on like YouTube videos or something that they had done, and like, no offense, they're just kind of very fringe people, which like, you do you, you know, like, I'm not trying to be judgy, but I'm really gonna have to like edit myself, but their vibe when I saw them in the video was just like new age vibes to the max, and for some reason at the time it was just sort of like a turnoff to me. Beyond that, the green beauty market has exploded since they were sort of on my radar, and there's just things that I think are a little bit more chic and elegant and not so like new age high vibe in sort of a very intentional way, the way that they do it. So I don't know, that probably makes me sound really judgmental, but not that like I'll never use their products, I haven't in a while, but you know, I know a lot of people are a big fan, so if you're into it, go for it. So with 100% Pure, it's similar but different. Obviously they don't have that sort of new age intentionality vibe in that way, but 100% Pure, the main reasons I don't like them are that I think that they're really expensive for what they are. I think that they look and perform more like drugstore priced products. I think that their claims are kind of too good to be true, and so I'm sort of suspicious. They sort of claim to be this like really, really natural, only fruit pigmented makeup line, and I feel it feels a little mass produced as well, and I think it looks sort of girlish, I guess, for lack of a better descriptor. It just seems a bit young. I think that they're a sort of a starter brand for a lot of people getting into eco beauty. Some of their products I think people do really like. I've gotten a lot of recs to try their body scrubs. The blushes are supposed to be really pigmented. I'm just not interested. And I've only used like a handful of products. I did have one of the Healthy Foundation Powder Compacts, which was just for almost $40. The pan of product was like stuck in there with a piece of tape and styrofoam, like all set with that. And I went through several things of the tinted moisturizer, which I thought was like totally just not worth how expensive it is. You know, again, if you like them, I hope I'm not offending you. It's just not my thing. This is, I'm not sure if this was a Q&A question. I actually did answer it in the video, but I think it's maybe a good one to say here because I never really talk about these kinds of products. It's from Colleen. And she said, I have combo oily skin and acne. Is there any product you could recommend to help with acne? So I have very normal skin and like, knock on wood, I don't really deal with acne. So my recommendations are based just on what I've seen from friends of mine and read and things like that. And what I said to her was, I tend to always keep a spot treatment around just if I do have sort of an errant pimple pop up. So right now I have the Osmia spot treatment, which works for me. In the past I've used the Burt's Bees one, which I think is also decent. And then I've heard that Yuli, Stark, and Paula's Choice, which is not eco, but I've heard that it's very, very effective for acne-prone skin. So those are kind of like my best recommendations. If I do continue to hear about lines and recommendations that are good for controlling acne, I will definitely let you know. I think also, now that I'm saying it, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, detox masks like Mahalo's Pele and May Lindstrom's Problem Solver are quite good for drawing that sort of stuff out. Osmia could be another good brand, although they're more targeted towards people with sensitive reactive skin like rosacea and dermatitis, but I think that their hydrating gel toner is supposed to be quite good for people with acne, and yeah, that's what I can think of off the top of my head. So this is another question from Colleen on a separate video where I formally was soliciting questions for a Q&A. She asked, I would like to know when you decided to incorporate more green beauty and lifestyle products into your life. It was around 2010, 2011. I was in graduate school, and actually I remember the sort of turning point, I had two friends from college come visit me. One of them was sort of like a fellow beauty junkie, and she told me about how she had recently read No More Dirty Looks and started shopping on Spirit Beauty Lounge, and she had brought like a bunch of Tata Harper products with her, and she let me try them. And this was when Tata Harper was really small and niche, and she was in the old packaging, which I still really miss. It was like glass bottles with green and yellow labels on it, and I don't know, I don't really like her new packaging at all, but I remember trying them, particularly the hydrating floral essence and like the face cleanser or something, and then something just like clicked in my head. I picked up No More Dirty Looks and I was like off and running. That's kind of the brief synopsis of green beauty in particular, but I had sort of been primed and ready for something like that because I have been into alternative health and health seeking like basically my entire life. And also around probably like a year before the green beauty thing happened, I had started getting acupuncture to resolve coming off of hormonal birth control and not getting my period for a very long time, which is a story for another video that I really need to do, and I'm so sorry it's taking me so long to get to it. But I was just kind of in the right space to go for it with respect to beauty and sort of self-care products. What are some of your favorite products you have found? That's such a big question. Actually, I recently did an Instagram post where I listed sort of my desert island products for skincare and makeup, so let's see if I remember them. Skincare would be Mahalo's The Petal, Mahalo's Vitality Elixir, Osmia Protein Exfoliating Mask if I want to do a physical exfoliator. I'm gonna have to go look because I'm like blanking now. Infior Vital Toning Essence, anything from Infior. And that was it for the skincare. And then my can't live without makeup items are Suntegrity, RMS Buriti Bronzer, Zuzu Luxe Liquid Liner, and a bold lip. Mahalo's Red My Lip Tint, MAC Ruby Woo, NARS Cruella, Bite Quince, which is actually what I'm wearing today, and Bite Aubergine are all tops. She asked a lot of questions. What is your job outside of YouTube? I am a staff researcher at an academic medical center in Boston. I am a sociologist by training. All of my degrees, bachelor's, master's, and PhD are all in sociology. I went to the University of Chicago for my undergrad. I did sociology and Latin American studies, and then I went to Brown in Providence, Rhode Island for master's and PhD. Within sociology, I did my 2 graduate school exam areas in urban sociology and environmental sociology. If I could do it over again, my department used to make us test in 3 areas, and then around the time I was testing, they dropped it to 2. But if I could have done a 3rd area, I would have done social theory. My research interests and kind of like my graduate school work, the postdoc that I did, and the research that I do now is all different versions of health-related research. My dissertation was on the alternative food movement in Rhode Island, so I spent a lot of time at farmers markets. I worked on an urban farm, like, can you picture it? And I spent time at a community garden. I did like that whole shtick. But it was fun. It was all qualitative. I did like a bunch of interviews and ethnography, and then my postdoc was amazing. It was super interesting. I was doing work on digital health interventions in vulnerable US communities, and I wasn't even in a sociology department. I was in a computer science department, and I worked with a bunch of people that did participatory technology design, so it was really, really cool and like cutting edge, and I had the best boss of all time. She was a junior faculty member at the university I was at, and I still miss her so much to this day. We had just a really good rapport. And now I do work on workplace health interventions. It's much more kind of like traditional survey research, and basically the work we do is helping people function better in the workplace who have physical and mental health limitations. Do you like your job? I do. I'm a very bifurcated person, I guess. Someday I would love to make the world of beauty my full-time livelihood. I grew up in a very academic household. Both my parents were college professors, and so they, for better or worse, really pushed my sister and I in that direction. And my sister is also a PhD sociologist. She's not quite done, but she's finishing up. Our dad was also a sociologist, and we both have not only are we both sociologists, but we both worked in the same area of like sociology of food, agriculture, health, community stuff. So it's kind of, I guess, a family legacy. But I've always sort of been slightly reluctant, I guess, because if I could have done anything, I would have wanted to go to beauty school. It just wasn't really like an option in my family, social pressure wise. So I guess we'll see what the future holds. I do like my job though. I'm glad that I'm doing meaningful work, but I'm also really thankful I have a creative outlet. What is the greatest gift you have been given? Oh my God, that is such a loaded question. I feel like my health is probably the biggest gift that I have, and I've had sort of two very profound healing moments in my life, and that would be when I started acupuncture and when I started working with Adam, the medical intuitive that I currently work with now. Both have been life-changing on different planes, so I would consider those to be really great gifts in my life. Lastly, Colleen is curious what I do for fun. Do I have any hobbies? Oh my God, so many. I've had a lot over the years. I'm like a true Gemini. I like to take a project on and sort of master it, and then I tend to get bored, but not as quickly as you would think. Like, it takes a couple years for me to wear out of something, but some things have stuck around. I would say my biggest outlet in addition to YouTube is music, as you can probably tell from the name of my channel. I grew up playing classical piano for 15 years probably, from age 8 through like my early 20s. I was still taking piano lessons when I would come home from college in the summer, and really thankful for that foundation. And then in my early 20s through my mid 20s, I fell in love with house music and started DJing. I bought a set of turntables and a bunch of records and started learning to beat match in my bedroom in like 2006. And then when I got to graduate school a couple years in, I was part of a 4-woman DJ collective, and we played tons of parties around Providence for probably 2 or 3 years together. And then we kind of all went in separate directions, but I have stuck with it, and I still do DJ, mostly still in Rhode Island with my crew of friends that are down there, all guys. There's like no more women anymore, but yeah, music is probably my second biggest outlet. I don't produce, although that's kind of the next direction I would like to move in. And I always am kind of meaning to do a video on like DJing 101, because I think it would be really interesting for people that don't know what like beat matching and DJing looks like to do a video on it. I think that'd be really fun. What else do I do for fun? I go see a lot of DJs out, or I used to. I don't really so much anymore. I used to be really, really into salsa dancing for a handful of years, again, mostly like in graduate school. I've kind of outgrown that scene, but it was fun for a while. I have like this kind of social persona, and then I'm also sort of like a homebody and very into like nesting and creating a beautiful home. So I took a bunch of French patisserie classes a couple years ago, and making croissants is like super fun, even though I can't have gluten anymore. I like to knit. I like to read. So a question from Emily E was, I think people have already asked, but really interested to hear more about your grad school research area and what you do professionally. So already answered that. Also, do you have any ideas at this time how you want your YouTube channel to grow, change, evolve in the future? I wish I were sort of more intentional about this and kind of more, I don't know. I started my YouTube channel like purely for fun because I had been watching YouTube videos for so long, and I was like, I feel like I have a perspective to contribute. I had no idea it would even get to the point where it is now, where I have the viewership that I do, and I get to work with the brands that I do, and I'm really like happy with where it is. It's weird to even think about it getting bigger. I'm definitely open to it and would like it, just because I feel like a lot of people have benefited, I guess. Beyond what I present in videos, I think the community of people that leave comments is really invaluable, as we're all just sort of like here to support each other and share ideas. I wish I had a better answer for this question. I hope for continued growth. My channel has just brought me nothing but completely unbridled joy and satisfaction and happiness. So I guess I just hope for more of that. Okay, from Caitlin K, curious to your thoughts on ethical clothing. Do you take this into consideration when purchasing clothes? By ethical, I mean made by workers earning a living wage in safe factories. I'm curious because I see so many people putting so much effort into body, skin, hair sourcing, but tend to ignore clothing. I think you're completely right, and this is sort of my next frontier, as I feel like I've been alluding to in videos with, you know, my recent Everlane purchase and moving more towards a capsule approach. So I think it's twofold. Yes, I'm sort of reconceptualizing the brands I want to order from, but also just buying less. I mean, that's kind of always, and that's why the capsule seems so appealing, because it's focused on accumulating less stuff. I realized it just got like really dark in here. I might bring in a light. Actually, I'm gonna have to go soon, so I'm gonna have to sit down and do the rest of the questions later. But to finish up on the ethical clothing question, yes, it's a direction I'm moving in, and also just towards accumulating less clothing. I'm gonna do one more question. I love you guys. Some people just left like 12 questions in one comment. I'm trying to find like a quick one. So this is a quick one from Autumn. I'm a huge film buff, so I'd love to know your favorite films. I don't watch a ton of movies, but I do have some favorites. Kind of on the light-hearted end of things, I love black romantic comedies, which I've mentioned before. So like Brown Sugar, Think Like a Man, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, Waiting to Exhale, Love and Basketball, like that genre I love. They like me. Also the music in them tends to be really good. One of my favorite movies of the last couple years was Her with Joaquin Phoenix. I loved that movie. I thought it was really poignant. I love the movie Love and Other Disasters with Brittany Murphy. It's kind of like a little under the radar movie that she did that I really, really like. Okay, so I literally just went to my DVD pile and pulled some. Do people even still have DVDs? Like I do. I never really like watch these that often, but I do have them. So I really like L'Auberge Espagnole. I remember we had to watch this in French class. That's like a whole other question to tackle, like my Frankophilia and why my channel is named what it is, but I was always a Spanish language learner, and then I developed this love for French and took French in graduate school, actually, when I was doing my graduate school research with a bunch of like 18-year-olds at Brown. It was hilarious and also amazing. We had to watch L'Auberge Espagnole, and I love that movie. Waking Life, which I think is great. Also, What the Bleep Do We Know, even though I know that it's like been criticized a lot. Contact is one of my favorite movies with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey. I watched this when it first came out in the theater with my family. We were on vacation visiting my grandmother in Florida, and I remember it very vividly, and it touched me deeply. I was like, I want to go in a wormhole. That sounds amazing. Brown Sugar, Love and Other Disasters, and The Fountain. I like this movie because it's about different incarnations through different time periods and different lives. Yeah, I love this movie. Okay, I want to do one more. I like don't want to go to work. I want to keep just like answering questions. So this question is from Shalom Westberg. Do you speak French, love France, things French, or have a French connection? I think I have a past life French connection for sure, but in this current life, no, I am not culturally or ethnically French, although sometimes people think that I am, which makes me super happy. I do sort of speak French. One of my goals for the fall, I'm going through like a lot of transition this summer. I'm moving apartments and traveling and doing all this stuff. One of my goals once I get settled in my new space, I want to get back into a French conversation class. I did speak French at one point. I took a full year of like college level French, probably 4 years ago now, and I just loved it. I was basically conversational. I was not even close to fluent, but I love the language so deeply. I had always studied Spanish. My mother is Mexican American from Texas, so I always had that connection. I did Latin American studies in college. I lived abroad in Mexico when I was in college, and my sister and I took a backpacking trip to Europe. There were no backpacks involved. It was like rolly suitcases. But we did like a 2.5 or 3 week trip around Europe in 2010, 2011. We actually spent a New Year's Eve in Paris. And my sister had studied abroad in Paris and kind of was like showing me the light of breaking away from our normative family expectations. And I just fell in love with like everything there. It resonated with me on this deep level, and that was just the direction I wanted to move in, and I became obsessed with all things French. Also at the time when I was in graduate school, I was doing a lot of theoretical thinking about the issues that I was studying in graduate school, and there's such a rich history of French social theorists and philosophers, and so I became enamored with the work of primarily Michel Foucault, and also Pierre Bourdieu. Probably more Foucault than Bourdieu, but I used both of them a lot actually in my dissertation research. This is probably really boring sounding. But my dad, who was a sociologist, was also a big Foucault person, because his sort of overarching thing, if you don't know, is just about how power operates in society and in relationships, and how basically everything in life is an exercise of power. I was really into his ideas of self-governance and governmentality, and how you internalize rhetoric that makes you a self-governing citizen, but then also how the means of the state govern its population with respect to health. This is getting like super academic, but I was just like, for like my last 3 years of graduate school, I was just in that zone. I was obsessed with everything French, and I took the French patisserie classes. I was really into making my own pastries at home. I was speaking the language. I was reading the theory, and I was just obsessed. I like wanted to be French. I mean, I still kind of do. Now it's evolved more that I completely like idealize the French approach to life and beauty, and like being effortless but chic but undone but not trying. The art of not striving has always been something that's resonated with me. Like the American approach to like flog yourself and like try harder, work harder, hustle, you're not doing anything unless you're hustling, you can sleep when you're dead. Like that shit has never resonated with me ever. I'm just like, take a chill pill. Like I'm not a hustler. Like I want to be intentional and thoughtful, and like, I don't know. So I guess I feel like culturally I'm more aligned with French or European values than I am with American values, because I'm not kind of like a business-minded hustler. But yes, so that's the answer to the French question. Okay, I'm gonna try, I really have to go, I'm gonna be so late for work. I'm gonna try and pick this up at another time. I'll probably be not looking like this unless I have time after work today, so I'll see you guys soon.